Hello everyone. In this lesson we're going to learn how we can get parameter from the route. So what do we mean by parameter from route? So from our recent albums page, we have linked to go to details of each of those album. Now if we click on them, the URL gives the album / and then the album ID. So every time we go to a different album, the URL is actually slightly different. It gives that particular album ID. Now in this page we need to know this album ID so that we can do something based on that album ID. Load the details of that album, for example, which photos are in that album. Now how can we do that? So this is the album details component, I believe. So let's take a look at album details component. So if we go to the album details component, currently we don't have any functionality added there, but here we want to get that ID. Now for this we'll need the activated route, which we have previously used for navigation, but let's add that as a dependency here. So in the constructor, private route colon activated route, and it is automatically imported. Now once we have the activated route, we'll need to get the ID from the parameter. So and once we take that attribute, we need to save that attribute somewhere in this class. So for that, let's add a class variable here called album ID, and the data type for that will be string. Now when this is initialized, we can go inside the ng on init, and we can refer to the route by this dot route dot param map, and that will give us a observable. So similar to before, the examples that we have seen for doing observable, working with observable, we can subscribe to this observable, and what we will get when this subscription is successful, it will get some params. So let's call this params, and then this is what we want to do for those params, which is we can call a method in the params to get a particular parameter. Now what would be the parameter name in this case? For that we actually need to go and see the app routing module, and we need to see here that when somebody is coming to the album details component, so here it's actually album colon album ID. So that's the parameter name. So we need to get this album ID, and that's what we will have to use there, params dot get album ID. And now when we get that, we want to save it inside this class variable album ID. So this dot album ID equals to params dot album ID, and once we have that, we can, let's see if we actually have that. So console.log dot album ID this dot album ID, save, And if we go to a particular album now, go to album, and you can go and inspect, and you can see that got album ID. So we managed to get that album ID within the component. And now we can actually use this album ID to load additional details for this album. But that's how we actually get the parameter from the route. We need a dependency on activated route, and then we can call the route.param map and subscribe to that observable, and from there we can actually get all the parameters. And then for a particular parameter we just need to call params.get, and we'll get that particular parameter. And then the params name that is used here is actually whatever the params that we defined here in the routing module. If we call it id here, we need to refer to id here. So that's how we work with parameters in activated route. Thank you.